Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Brown, and I am a member of the Physician Assistant class of 2021, and I will be leading our service today. Forgive me, though. I have an ear infection, so if I am screaming at you, it's because I can't hear out of my ear, but I just want to say thank you for bearing with me. First, I would like to take a moment to extend my deepest gratitude to everyone joining us today, to commemorate and honor those who have made an everlasting impact on our lives and our futures, our amazing donors, our first patients. As you entered the auditorium today, you may have noticed the white paper bags that lined the steps leading you to your seats. These bags were written on by various students within graduate physical therapy, physician assistant studies, athletic training, and undergraduate advanced anatomy students. Each anatomy group came together to write a special note to their donor, thanking them for what they taught, helped, or showed each and every one of them. Some of the comments you may have seen on these bags, if you took a moment to look at them, were how much about the human body was not only learned, but appreciated. How impactful the experience for each and every student was. And endless thank yous for their contribution. I loved reading all of the notes that were written by my fellow classmates about all of the incredible donors. I can assure you that these messages were written with the utmost gratitude and compassion for your loved ones, and I hope that you get a chance to read some of them. So those of you sitting before me may not be familiar with my background. However, I have been provided the greatest privilege in having to met many of my first patients. Beginning to work with donors as early as a young freshman in my first human anatomy class 7 years ago, I know, I'm old, I can personally attest to the tremendous knowledge that I've not only gained, but have used. The advanced understanding of what it means to treat my patients with respect, and how working together as a team provides the very most wholesome, finest care for your patient. To this day, I still remember my very first patient and holding their hand of somebody else's loved one. There was a bundle of raw emotions that I felt, and I wanted to know everything and anything that I could about this donor. This donor and many others had multiple things to teach me about them, but also about me and about who I wanted to be and how I wanted to treat my patients. In the last 7 years, I've actually interacted with over 200 donors, and I've learned something new from each and every one of those donors. They've made me into who I am today and into the aspiring PA that I want to be tomorrow. Next, I would like to introduce and welcome Mr. Ramil Ferguson to give the invocation for today's service.
May we bow our heads. Father, thank you for another opportunity to come to you as humbly as we know how. We want to thank you for allowing these donors and their families to not think it's selfish to donate and give back to those. You told us that we are called to serve rather than to be served, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve. We thank you for the opportunity to be better than the day we were before. We thank you for the opportunity to just be thankful for you. We know that you're a God that sits high and looks low. We ask that today you be a comforter to these families. We ask that you be a friend to the friendless, a mother to the motherless, and we'll always be grateful for you, God. In Jesus' name we pray and give thanks. Amen.
Thank you, Ramil. Now I'd like to introduce and welcome Victoria Reed to read a poem for all of you called Anatomy Teacher.
When I touched your hands, I touched hands that had felt the chill of 94 winters, fingers that had stretched in the sunlight of as many springs. When I touched your feet, I touched feet that had walked the paths of 9 decades, toes curling and uncurling through the uncertainty of 5 wars. When I touched your arms, I touched the arms that had braced you from and embraced the world, a world I know only through historians and faded photographs. When I stared into the shell of your eyes, I saw the screen upon which a million irreplaceable scenes had been played, visions of a world rapidly changing, at once both like and unlike my own. When I held your heart in my hands, in a moment filled with awe and grace, I held a heart whose mysteries I will never know, a heart that gave me the gift of itself. When you invited me to know you, to be a guest in the house that your spirit left, to touch your body more intimately than any lover could, you forever altered my life. My feet, with the knowledge of yours, will walk into the future carrying you with me. My hands, as they reach out to comfort and heal, will do so never forgetting the delicacy of yours. My eyes, as they sweep across the landscapes of my future, will find in it reflections of the world I saw as yours. My heart, in the rhythm of its beating, will carry with it the stillness and wonder of your heart lying silent in my hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Next, I would like to introduce and welcome Dr. Heather Ahrens, an assistant professor of biology here at High Point University. She had the honor of teaching the graduate physical therapy students this past summer. She will be speaking on behalf of all of our faculty.
Thank you for that introduction. In honor of our donors, I would like to speak to and reflect on what we have learned and can learn from them and their gift. First is the practical and immediate knowledge gained by each and every student of anatomy. Only through dissection of these cadavers can we visualize and appreciate the inherent beauty and complexity of the human body. We could not fully grasp the integration of body systems nor the variation present between individuals and patients by studying books and models alone. The Cadaver Lab is a place where we can actively engage with the anatomy, explore form and function, and gain the basic understanding that will serve as the foundation for the rest of your education. The opportunities these donors have provided are invaluable to the learning experience and your journey as healthcare professionals and as healers. To the students, these individuals were your first patients, your first chance to discover pathologies, ailments, and disease. You observed gallstones, knee replacements, pacemakers, and tumors. And through these discoveries, you had the first opportunity to consider the quality of life of your patient, to confront pain and death, and to work on balancing professionalism and emotion, which is not always an easy task. Your transition from merely a student to professional began with our donors. There are also deeper and more philosophical lessons learned. In their gift, the donors and their families have demonstrated values that we all hope to possess in practice: sacrifice, service, and generosity. For some, it is an easy decision to donate their body, but for others and their families, perhaps less so. They may worry about what the process entails and feel vulnerable. For the families, it means having to let go of the physical remains of a loved one, even for just a short time. Yet each body belonged to an individual that chose to give themselves to you to learn, to improve your knowledge. It was a sacrifice in service of your education. And we should all work to emulate those values demonstrated by them. As you graduate and move on to and serve communities throughout North Carolina and the United States, these donors are honored by every single person that you treat. Their generosity impacts us not only in our short time here at High Point University, but again, every future student, trainee, and patient. Their donation is beyond priceless. Thus, as you work to heal your patients, you honor and respect these donors and their families. Your knowledge learned here will be with you for the rest of your careers. In this gift of their bodies, there is meaning in death itself as well. Their death and this gift will be life-altering and life-saving for so many in the future through you. And so for that, we thank them so very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ahrens. Next, I would like to introduce and welcome Audra Reinhardt, the Physician Assistant Studies class of 2021's president and my colleague. Ms. Reinhardt will be speaking on behalf of the PA class's experiences with these amazing donors this past summer. And speaking after Audra, I would like to welcome and introduce Joe Casadante. And he will be speaking on behalf of the athletic training cohort and describing their experiences with our donors.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello and welcome. I am truly honored for the opportunity to personally thank you on behalf of the Physician Assistant class of 2021. Thank you for the selfless donation and invaluable contribution that you and your loved ones made, which has made a genuine and everlasting impact on all of us, one that runs far deeper than education. Your loved ones have given us a richer understanding of what life is, what it means, and how it is defined. Life is not defined by a heartbeat or a nerve impulse. Life is defined by the impact it has on others. And by that definition, I can tell you that your loved one's life has been an instrumental vessel in every aspect of our growth, both academically and personally, and has had an influence on us that is everlasting. Because what we learned from them, our first patients, we will continue to use daily in order to understand all of our patients and teach our future students, who will in turn do the same. So in a sense, your loved one's earthly life is unending. And we've heard it said that there's no greater gift than the gift of life. But I ask you to expand upon this and reverse it even. Ask yourself instead, what are the greatest gifts that life can give? Because if knowledge is power, then she has given me power. If in order to be strong, you must first realize your weakness, then she has given me strength. If in order to succeed, you first must fall, then she has taught me how to succeed. You see, our first patients have given us invaluable knowledge and irreplaceable understanding that is much more profound than anatomy, structure, and composition. They taught us to give without ever expecting to receive. That beauty does certainly not run skin deep. And they taught us that life is an enigma and that it endures even after it's gone. Your loved ones have inspired us to live our lives unselfishly and in such a way that we too may bring deep meaning to the lives of others. So if it's okay, I'd like to share with you how my first patient affected me personally. So not too long before beginning this program, I'm so sorry I wasn't going to do this. I think I need it. It's okay. Yeah. Okay, sorry. We're good. This is emotional for all of us, I think. I too lost a loved one. Sorry. I lost my grandmother, and she was my best friend and my soulmate. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so upon entering the anatomy lab that very first day, anxious and unaware of the emotions I would experience, obviously, wondering if I could subdue any feelings of grief, I met my first patient. I'm so sorry. The first thing I noticed were her hands. Her fingernails painted pink, just like my grandmother's always were. And this struck me immediately and brought me a really unique sense of joy. It may be strange or odd to some, but I couldn't help but touch her hands and take hold of even just for a moment. Her hands took me back to the sacred moments my grandmother and I shared in her last days. She had asked me to paint her nails, something I always did for her. So, anticipating her request, I came prepared with her favorite shade of pink. So in that moment in the anatomy lab, I couldn't help but imagine that maybe my first patient, unable to paint her own nails anymore, had an adoring family member take the time to paint them for her, just like I had done. Seizing the opportunity to dote on her one more time. I apologize. It was no coincidence that I was aligned with the lady with the pink fingernails. I needed her for far more than her originally intended purpose. She reminded me of the strength, power, and beauty you can find in aged hands. And over the course of our time together, her past came to life. I could imagine the tears her hands wiped away. The bread she needed for family meals, the comfort her hands could bring upon the shoulder of a grieving loved one, or outstretched tenderly, eager to embrace a grandchild. It's strange, really, to be impacted so deeply and so profoundly by folks whose names we'll never know, and how a course in anatomy can reveal considerably more than ever expected. So, for some of us, this experience taught us how intricate and complex we are as humans. For others, the extraordinary paradox of our strength and fragility was both realized and understood. But for all of us, this experience gave us a privileged understanding of what life is, what it truly means to be selfless, and solidified just how exceptionally beautiful we all really are, inside and out. So we honor, genuinely, the lives your loved ones lived, the legacy that they leave, and the life their generosity will afford others. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Joe Casadante from representing the Athletic Training Club. On June 3rd, 2019, we met each other. We walked into the exam room and were introduced to our first patients. Much like the waiting room, our donors were from all different walks of life, and they were waiting for us. With many years under their belt, they were eager to silently tell us their stories and share their personal experiences so that we could become the best practicing clinicians possible. Our donors taught us patient-centered care. They did that by trusting us to listen, understand, collaborate, and treat them with the utmost respect and compassion. Our donors have done the most selfless act anyone could ever do. For that, we thank them. We thank you and their families for carrying out their wish to donate. As an athletic training student, this opportunity has had a big impact on my learning and development as a clinician. It has not only taught me patient-centered care, but a deep understanding of the human body. With the base knowledge I have now obtained, it allows me to question, be open to new ideas, and to look under the surface for better understanding. Our donors have given us the opportunity to visually see all the different body types, not only from the outside, but deep within. From the skin to the muscles to the ligaments that hold it all together. Seeing these structures all together inside a donor, instead of a picture or a video, truly let us appreciate how we function dynamically in real life. This understanding allows us to be better prepared to give quality patient-centered care to all of our current and future patients. I now have a deep, meaningful understanding and respect for human life, for the beings that we are, and the spirit that lives inside each and every one of us. God is good. God has crafted each person with the same structures, but organizes them differently to craft the individuality of human life. This is a celebration of their life and their experiences. Today we honor them, we thank them for the righteous selflessness act. Donors, thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Audra and Joe. It is my honor to welcome and introduce both Courtney Millison and Kinsey Pitchford to the stage to play a musical ballad. They have selected In the Garden to honor our donors. Incredible. Thank you for that wonderful piece, Courtney and Kinsey. Next, I would like to introduce both Emmy T. Cash and Olivia Hill in order to reflect on their experience with their first patient.
Hi, my name is Emmy T. Cash, and I'm a senior in the Exercise Science program. Each spring, High Point University offers an advanced anatomy course to its undergraduate students. I, along with 17 other students, were blessed with this opportunity that most are not given at this level of our academic career. Many of my classmates and I were aspiring doctors, physician assistants, and physical therapists, and we wanted to take this class knowing it would be a great opportunity to prepare us for our first year in graduate school. However, we had no idea that this experience would carry so much more meaning than that. I quickly learned that this class is about much more than anatomy. It's really about the meaning of life, which can only be taught through our donors. My donor had a story, and he chose to not let his story end with death. Rather, he chose to provide an opportunity for future clinicians to learn about the intricacies of the human body. As a future physical therapy student and future physical therapist, being able to have hands-on learning and seeing how the structures of the body work together is so beneficial, and I know I will be able to use that one day when I have patients of my own. Not only did the donors aid us in our learning, they allowed us to appreciate the complexity of the human body and the immeasurable value of human life. To be able to see that every single person has the same basic physical blueprint, yet each of us have a uniqueness to ourselves, is nothing short of magnificent. My classmates and I are forever indebted to the donors for their willingness to entrust us with their bodies, to teach and inspire us, the next generation of healthcare professionals. Their gift of life has impacted us tremendously and will be remembered by each of us as we take what we have learned and apply it to our future careers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Olivia Hill, and I'm a member of the physical therapy class of 2022. There's an old Latin phrase that has been inscribed over anatomy labs for centuries. Mortui vivos docent, which means the dead teach the living. This phrase is meaningful to me because I learned so much more from our donors than I ever could have from a textbook. As you've heard, our donors have also been called our first patients and our silent teachers. And while true, both of those titles fall short of the magnitude of the role they played in our education. I am so thankful that each donor made the choice to donate and to invest so richly in us. I am also thankful to you, their families, who supported that decision and shared your loved ones with us. There are so many things that I want to tell you about our experience in the anatomy lab. So many incredible things that we were given the opportunity to see because of your loved ones. I am forever amazed by the intricately beautiful design of the human body, and the donors gave me the gift of being able to witness it firsthand. Beyond the mechanics of anatomy, our donors shared the story of their lives. Each of our silent teachers had a story to share with us. Each one let us in to part of their lives by being with us after death. We saw the challenges they faced by injury and illness, and by the end of the semester, I felt like I had gotten to know at least a part of who our donor was in life. I wish I could share how it felt to have such intimate access to another person, and how grateful I am that I was given the opportunity to learn from them. I don't really have words to describe how I feel to be one of the select few to receive this gift, and how honored that a stranger made such an investment in our education. That is a debt that we can only hope to repay by taking the things they have taught us and becoming the best clinicians we can be. Our donors made the ultimate investment in us, and our hope is to honor their memories by paying it forward to our future patients, who will each come to us with their own unique story of injury and illness, and will hopefully leave our care with a story of healing, thanks in part to the generosity of someone they never met, So, on behalf of the physical therapy class of 2022, thank you to our donors and their families.
Thank you, Emmy and Olivia. I will now be discussing how we have decided to honor our silent teachers. If you look to my left, you will notice that there are a plethora of flowers surrounding a large candle. The 37 pink flowers represent the gratitude that we have towards each and every one of our 37 donors that we are commemorating and honoring today in this ceremony. The 4 white flowers that you see represent the 4 different classes that learned from these donors. I would like to draw all of your attention to that candle that I just lit. This candle was lit in memory of all of the donors in order for us to gain a knowledge set unlike any other, to experience respect, teamwork, and gratitude in a way that is so raw and so pure. I would now like to take a moment to have all of the students who learned from the donors this past year to please stand. Now, we'd like to share a moment of silence to express our gratitude for those who gave us the most memorable experience and left us with such an everlasting impression on our hearts. Thank you. You may be seated. Next, I would like to welcome and introduce Reverend Preston Davis, the minister to the university. He will be providing us with some words of comfort.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sarah, you have not been too loud at all. I have the great fortune to be at many events on campus that have deep meaning in them, and I'm embarrassed this is my first time to this program. This may be one of the most important ones. You get to take part in something quite profound here, and it's not lost on any of you here, I can already tell. Much of that is the learning that takes place and the story that's taken place with your own lives here. A good friend of mine earlier this week was recognized with a Lifetime Achievement Award, a mentorship award, and one of his mentees got up to introduce him. And as he did so, he told the story of a grandfather, a father, and a son who were fishing. And the grandfather said, "Oh my gosh, we forgot the bait." And he jumped out of the boat and he ran on water and got to the shore and grabbed the bait and ran back on water and came back to the boat. And got in the boat, and the grandson went, "What was that?" And the father said, "Oh my gosh, we forgot the hooks." And he did the same thing. He jumped out of the boat and ran on water. Ran to the shore, got the hooks, ran back to the water, right onto the boat, and the grandson went, "I got to have some of this too." And he went, "Well, hey, we forgot our lunch." And he stepped out of the boat and he fell into the water. And the grandfather looked over at his son and said, "Do you think we should have told him where the stones are?" Your teachers here, your donors here, they show you where the stones are. They help you learn in ways that you didn't see before. And it's quite profound. It may not be walking on water, but you become a healer by them and their mentorship. I think Emmy is right. She's talking about the story our lives tell, the stories our bodies tell. I'm really interested in this, and this program I think gets at it. What kind of stories do our bodies tell? This World Body program, I think it tells a profound story. You can't go past somebody who has a scar or a tattoo without thinking something to yourself. I think we all have some of this going, what is the story there? What is the story of that life? What is the story of that moment? What is the story of that body? I think the culture we live in, right, we are tempted to think bodies tell us, we want our bodies to tell a story of glamour, but y'all are in a program where you see bodies that tell a story of generosity. That even when the last breaths are taken, there's so much more to give than you ever thought. It's incredibly profound and countercultural and deeply meaningful story. I'm a Christian pastor, but I don't think you have to be a Christian or even religious to get the significance of the story that it's telling. I mean, at its most climactic moment, Jesus, right? He's executed. This is profound. He's abandoned by his best friends, and they're in sorrow and in shame afterwards. And you can read in a way that Jesus he returns them. It's profound, right? He comes to him and he shows him his hands. He shows him his wounds, and he asks one to put his hands in those wounds. He comes back to the very people who abandoned him, right? It's like, I'm so taken by it again and again. His body tells a story. It's one of taking the shame out of the very people who abandoned him. It's one of saying, I'm going to love you and there's nothing you can do about it. It's quite profound. Our bodies tell a story. His body tells a story. Henry Nouwen, who's one of my favorite theologians, he says that you can't miss this moment. It's really important that he says what Jesus is doing, he's becoming a wounded healer. An amazing phrase, right? A wounded healer. It's incredible, right? Because you can't get out of this life without a wound. You can't get out of this life without some disappointment, some disaster, some despair. And the temptation, right, is to pass forward the wound. That wounded people wound others. There's got to be a break somewhere, doesn't there? And the calling on all of us is that we might become wounded healers. Your program shows you how to become a wounded healer. It's profound. The donation, the gifts, your first teachers, right? They are, not to put too fine a point on it, they are wounded healers. And they're forming generations of healers in advance and for the future. Greg Boyle, he's a Jesuit priest out in California. He wrote a book called Tattoos on the Heart. And he works with gang members, former gang members, and felons. He runs the largest felon reentry program in the country. And they have a bakery and a silkscreen shop. And they've had some other ideas that didn't work out, like homeboy plumbers. Who knew they didn't want felons coming into their house and with pipes and stuff like that. But what they have done, really, is they've created a reentry program for people who were wounded and once thought that their own wounds defined them. But coming amongst other wounded healers, they found new life. He tells one story that's kind of just haunted me, that stays with me. And Greg Boyle, he gets to go speak often and talk about what it is to be a wounded healer. And he has one of these former gang members that he brings with him often, and he talks about when he was a child that his mom used to beat him mercilessly. And he would have terrible scars on his back. And the scars were, not even before they were scars, they would bleed. And he was so ashamed, he would wear 3 shirts on his back, right? He would go to school with 3 shirts. And if that wasn't bad enough, then he would get the ridicule of his peers. Hey, why are you wearing 3 shirts? He said the shame followed him so much that for much of his life, even after the wounds became scars, he kept wearing 3 shirts. But he came into a program of people who were finding new life. He came to a point where he said his wounds didn't define him anymore, right? He came to a point where he got to run his fingers over his scars. He said he began to embrace his wounds. He said, how will I be able to help the wounded if I don't first embrace my own wounds? He became a wounded healer. This program is so imaginative. Mother Teresa's got this incredible quote, and it's been carrying me for a while, and she says, if we have no peace, it's that we've forgotten we belong to one another. This program is so profound because it carries that through. It's this reminder we belong to one another, even beyond our last breaths. That we can tell a story not of simply glamour. Our very bodies can tell a story of generosity. And that we are connected together in ways that we could barely catch the glimpses of before you were in something like this. So families of the donors who are here today, we thank you deeply. These students thank you deeply. For their bodies tell a story of generosity. And the way that we might thank them the most is that we become wounded healers ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. I would now like to welcome and introduce Lindsay Karamahalis. She will be reading a poem about how one survives through grief and trauma and being able to come out on the other end, called How We Survive.
If we are fortunate, we are given a warning. If not, there is only the sudden horror, the wrench of being torn apart, of being reminded that nothing is permanent, not even the ones we love, the ones our lives revolve around. Life is a fragile affair. We are all dancing on the edge of a precipice, a dizzying cliff so high we can't see the bottom. One by one, we lose the ones we love the most into the dark ravine. So we must cherish them without reservation. Now, today, this minute, we will lose them, or they will lose us someday. This is certain. There is no time for bickering, and their loss will leave a great pit in our hearts, a pit we struggle to avoid during the day and fall into at night. Some, unable to accept this loss, unable to determine the worth of life without them, jump into that black pit, spiritually or physically, hoping to find them there. And some survive the shock, the denial, the horror, the bargaining, the barren, empty aching, the unanswered prayers, the sleepless nights when their breath is crushed under the weight of silence and all that it means. Somehow, some survive, and like that, a flower opening after a storm, they slowly begin to remember the one they lost in a different way. The laughter, the irrepressible spirit, the generous heart, the way their smile made them feel, the encouragement they gave even as their own dreams were dying. And in that time, they fill the pit with other memories, the only memories that really matter. We will still cry, we will always cry, but with loving reflection more than hopeless longing. And that is how we survive. That is how the story should end, and that is how they would want it to be.
Thank you, Lindsay. Please welcome to the stage Amanda Middlestadt, the director of High Point's Willed Body Program and the woman that made all of this possible.
Good afternoon. As Sarah mentioned, I am the director of our Willed Body Program, a program that I have had the honor to see grow and flourish because of our amazing staff, students, and faculty, and all the hard work that they put into this program. But also because of the generosity of our donors and of you, our families, for you have given us your loved ones. Along with these gifts come a high level of trust, a trust that we, the program, will honor and respect your loved one while they are with us. This is something that I remember each and every morning I wake up. This is something that the assistant director remembers each and every morning he wakes up. And this is something our students and our faculty remember each and every morning when they wake up. Having lost my own mother, I understand the pain that one goes through in those first moments. How your mind escapes you and you don't know who to call or what to do. I will never forget how hard that first year was for me and my family, but I will always remember the kind and generous people that helped me make it through that first year. Which is why I will be forever grateful to have the opportunity I have had this past year as the director of the program to sit beside you, to get to know you and your loved ones, to have an opportunity to share their stories with me. I will be honest in saying that I have struggled with the idea of putting together a video for today's service because I have promised to keep our donors' identities private. But I kept thinking about my own mother's memorial service and how I couldn't help but remember the feeling when I saw my mother's face on that screen out in front of me, in front of others, to witness that she was my mother. She was a wife and a grandmother, a sister and an aunt. She was someone, just as your someones are someone to so many people. So I have decided that although their photos will not have names with them, and our donors' identities will still remain a secret or anonymous, I wanted each of you to know how I felt. Pride. Pride in knowing that your loved ones have made a difference in so many lives and will continue to live on forever in the lives of our students and all that have witnessed them today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of the donors, to your families, for giving us your loved ones.
Thank you, Amanda. Up next, the Ralph County Honor Guard will perform military funeral rites to honor our deceased veterans who gave themselves selflessly through the service for our country. Also, to honor those who showed courage and strength
by choosing to donate their bodies to us so that my classmates and my fellow colleagues could learn and serve our fellow patients in the future. On behalf of my fellow classmates and colleagues, we would like to thank all of our veterans for their service and their continued service, and thank you to our incredible donors who became our first patients. Thank you to the Randolph County Honor Guard for that lovely presentation. In closing, I would like to begin by saying thank you to everyone who helped in the preparation of our ceremony today, and to those who participated in this service. Also, I want to extend a thank you to all of you for attending. As you embark on your journey home, you'll be presented with multiple gifts to take home. The first gift is a sticker that was chosen by the members of our student body to act as a token of appreciation to the remarkable donors. As you inspect the sticker, you will notice that it is an anatomical heart, one that has flowers sprouting from the valves, and the other etched with various geometric shapes. The anatomical heart represents centralization and the unity of life, since the human heart is at the center of our engine of life. The flowers protruding from the heart symbolize the beauty and strength that our donors showed, and also to remind each and every one of us of the compassion and the suffering that these donors' loved ones experienced. The pink flower, once again, symbolizes our gratitude towards each of the donors for their selfless sacrifice, and the purple flower represents our very own High Point University. The geometric shapes encompassing the second anatomical heart sticker are meant to represent the multiple, unique, and abstract ways that these remarkable, amazing donors touched each and every one of our lives. Let these stickers be a reminder to us all of the selflessness and the courage that these donors provided each and every one of us throughout each of our experiences with them. The second gift that we have is for the loved ones of the donors. My fellow classmates came together to handcraft Christmas ornaments in order to honor and remember your loved ones. Please feel free to take one. Because we will also have extras, everyone is welcome to take one as well. Lastly, we want to present each donor's loved ones with a picture frame celebrating and honoring those who experience the most selfless sacrifice. We are deeply grateful for the sacrifice that not only your loved one made in donating their body to us, but also to all those family and friends dear to that donor who shared them with us. These will be upstairs in the ballroom. Again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for attending the ceremony today. And I invite each and every one of you upstairs in the ballroom for a time of commemoration, celebration, fellowship, and light refreshments. Thank you.
Sarah, you have thanked each and every one of us, so I want to thank you. You did an amazing job hosting our program today, and we couldn't have done it without you, so thank you. After hearing our speakers today, I'm sure all of you understand why you received an invitation to today's service. If you were a student, I hope the words spoken by your fellow classmates have allowed you to find peace and comfort in knowing that you are not alone in your feelings. That others also felt unknown, raw emotions when they first saw their donor or envisioned who their donor was during their life. I also hope that as you saw the smiles upon the faces of our donors during our video tribute, you were able to find a sense of wholeness in knowing that your donor gave of themselves the greatest gift they could so that you can transition from a student to a clinician with meaningful purpose. If you are a family member of one of the 37 donors we have honored here today, I hope the words you heard from all who spoke have given you a sense and comfort in knowing that your loved one was treated with respect and dignity, that they were cared for from the moment they became a donor to the day they transitioned into teachers, and when you received the call that they had completed their time here at High Point University. It is my wish that you now have a new understanding of why your loved one chose to donate, or possibly a new sense of peace in knowing that you made the best decision for your loved one when you chose to donate. I cannot attest to what it might have been for you and your family this past 3 months or this past year or more, but I can assure you that over the course of time, your loved one became an integral part of the High Point University family. I want to thank each of you from the bottom of my heart for joining us here today, because it is your physical presence that has given our students a bigger glimpse into understanding that when you treat a patient, you not only treat that patient, but you also care for their family. Thank you. I also want to again invite everybody upstairs, and for our donor families, myself and Assistant Director Ramil Ferguson will be happy to escort you up to the 4th floor where your loved ones' names are now on our Tree of Life, forever a part of our university. Thank you.